Happy New Year, Skin Queens! I hope you are doing well. I hope you had a beautiful Christmas as well and you managed to have some time off, whether you were really just having a restful time after a crazy week in the lead up to Christmas, or whether you're just taking some time to reflect on the year that has been and set your intentions for 2023 because we are now in 2023. It is the most amazing time of year. I really love January because everything feels fresh start, fresh goals, fresh intentions. Oh, it's the best thing ever. Now, you may have noticed the podcast is a little bit different, which I'm mega excited for. So, over the Christmas break, Cam and I, because as you may or may not know, I've hired my fiance, Cameron, full time in the SkinQueen business. And I'm really excited for this. He is going to be my online business manager and also my right hand man when it comes to everything that I do in my business. And part of that was when we were first beginning to work together, I guess you could say, at the beginning of December. We sat down and we had a look at our strategy for the couple of months ahead. And one of those was actually focusing on podcasting. So I started my podcast about 18 months ago, and it's so cool when I just go out to industry events and people are like, I love your podcast and I love listening to your podcast. And you may have heard from my previous episode that I did at the end of the year. I think it went out on Boxing Day, that I was talking about how over the past 12 months, I feel like my own voice has been a little bit diluted. And that's because I had so many guests on the podcast, which is amazing because I love getting to know people and also sharing the wisdom and the knowledge of so many others with you so that you can continue and to grow and learn not just from me, but from everybody else. But a big part of my strategy in my business this year is actually going to be focusing on podcasting and just really focusing on episodes solo, which is really exciting. So with that, we decided to upgrade our podcasting equipment. We've got an amazing I don't even know what to call it, to be honest. If you're watching this on YouTube, which that is the next part of the upgrades, now you can watch my podcast episodes on YouTube. So if you are someone who prefers to kick back on the couch at the end of the day and just put on YouTube and Chromecast it, or you might have a smart TV, then don't forget to come and check me out because you will see my beautiful face with every single podcast episode now, which is also a little bit of pressure for me to remember all my notes and make sure that I don't look like the hot mess I always look. I'm going to try and look as put together as possible, which if you are watching it on YouTube right now, don't mind the curls. I actually attempted heatless curls last night after watching a TikTok tutorial and having a few drinks. And I don't think it's a vibe. In saying that though, I did recently have my hair cut into layers, so that could be something to do with it. But, you know, it is what it is. So really excited though, because you're going to be seeing bits of this podcast on YouTube Shorts, on TikToks, on Instagram Reels, and it's just going to be larger than life, really, which is going to be epic. So this podcast is all about how to have your most successful year yet, and also too how I changed my life so that I could have my most successful year yet last year in 2022. As I said at the beginning here, it's now 2023 and I love January because it's all about fresh starts. It's a good reset. It's a good time to realign with all of our goals, our New Year's resolutions, all of the things that we want to achieve. And I really wanted to go into a little bit more depth about how I really made my 2022 goals come to life, which is, you know, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And I guess the key message here is that you need to take action, because you can have all these New Year's resolutions, you can have all these goals, you can have, you know, these dreams and a wish list and all these ideas, but until you start taking action on them, they're not actually going to happen. So a little bit about my story. It's probably been a while since I've told it, but back before I was actually a dermal therapist, I was working as a medical receptionist, and it wasn't a great job at all. I was getting rorted with my pay and lots of other things. Actually ended in a legal lawsuit, and I knew that I wanted out. I was like, what am I doing with my life? I think at that point I was only 18 or 19, and I was like, I didn't go to uni. Well, I did, and did a couple of different things and ended up dropping out. And I was like, okay, I need to do something to actually completely change up, I guess, the energy and change up what I'm doing day to day. And that was when I actually went and got laser hair removal. And I remember asking the therapist there, how did you get into this? Because I'd always had a bit of an interest in beauty. My mum's a hairdresser, and I never wanted to go do beauty therapy because manicures, pedicures, intimate waxing, that's not really my thing. I guess watching the people in mum's hair salon growing up, I was like, I don't know, I feel like I want to do something a little bit more advanced than that. So when I went and got laser hair removal done on my underarms, I asked the therapist how she got into it, and she wrote down the college where she studied, which was Grey Clay University. And so that is where I then sought all my effort and attention into. I had to apply, obviously. I had to do, I think it was like an entry assignment and an entry exam to get in. And I also had to have an interview to make sure that I was going to be the right fit. And from there, I got into the graduate diploma, which was really epic because I was pretty sure that this is what I was going to do. I'd already dropped out of a couple of different university degrees, but I just had a really good feeling about this. So got into that study and immediately fell in love. And I was like, this is exactly where I want to be. So fast forward a year later, I graduate, I get a job as a therapist working at different laser chains and working as a dermal therapist. Wasn't really loving life where I was. There was lots of high pressure sales targets and selling, and it was really hard to build a client database because the other clinic that I worked at was brand new. So I was like, okay, where do I want to work? And I remember my college teacher telling me to write down the 3 places that I really wanted to work and go for them. And so one of those was ultraceuticals. And I remember applying for a job at ultraceuticals. Didn't matter where I worked. I just wanted to work in the company. I applied for their David Jones role. I actually sent a resume to their Facebook, to their Instagram. I think Instagram was a thing then. And I also sent the resume to the advice helpline because on the back of their products, they actually have a little email address. So I was just hitting it hard. And that's when I landed my very first job as an educator, which was a long, long time ago now. But if I didn't take that action, and if I didn't be like, where do I actually want to work, wrote down the top 3 places and went for them, I wouldn't have gotten to where I was then, which was an educator for ultraceuticals. I was pretty much plucked out and they were like, okay, cool. We can't put you on a counter because at David Jones because we think that you will be a little bit bored. And for my overseas people, David Jones is like a department store. I can't even think of an overseas like-minded one because I'm in holiday brain right now, clearly. But look up a department store and you'll be able to get a bit of an idea of what David Jones is. And then from there, that's when I started to really hone my craft as an educator. At the time, I was living in Brisbane in Queensland, and I was living in a share apartment with my boyfriend at the time and 2 others. And I was on the most pay that I'd ever received. I still remember when the person who hired me said, you're getting $60,000 a year plus car allowance. How does that sound? I was like, wow. Like this was probably 8 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. And I was like, wow, far out. That's the most money I've ever earned. And she was like, well, you're going to have to work as hard as you've ever worked before. And I was like, okay, can do. But I was still in my life living week to week. How crazy is that? I was on the most amount of money that I'd ever earned in my life. Yet I was still living week to week in this share house with lots of other people, and it wasn't my own space. And I was like, I feel like I could be doing better. At the same time, I was always watching YouTube, and there were some really positive influences that I was always looking up to. And these were women who were about my age, who were in business as well, just doing some amazing things with their life. They were working for themselves, they were earning their own money, they were traveling, they were buying designer. And I just couldn't stop thinking about how that was the life that I wanted. And so after really following a couple of these people for a few years, that's when I decided I think it could have been, I want to say 2018, when I launched my very first digital product. and it was a ebook that was about social media marketing for beauty business owners, really directed to the point. But I guess in my job at the time, I was always getting asked by beauty business owners for help with social media marketing because they were like, "You're young, you're all over Instagram, you know how it works." So I was like, why don't I put this in an ebook and really monetize it? So when people ask me for help, I can say I've actually created an ebook on this and generate a little bit of cash as a bit of a side hustle. And that ebook sold for, I think, I want to say $29. Maybe it was 29 on sale, 49 full price, because there was quite a lot of pages in there. It was like 49 pages, or it was quite a lot. I put a few weeks into that ebook and shared a lot of knowledge. I also invested a lot into my social media marketing knowledge as well, not just downloading freebies. I also bought a few mini courses here and there, was watching lots of YouTube and listening to a lot of podcasts at that time, believe it or not, because I was driving in the car a lot. And from there, to see that ebook really generate a lot of interest, I think when I did my tax return the following year, that ebook had made me nearly $5,000 or $6,000 in 1 year. And I was like, wow, maybe there's something in this. That's when I decided that I actually wanted to take massive action in my life and shake things up a little bit and really just start living in alignment with who I really wanted to be. And if it wasn't for me getting these positive inspirations and I guess seeing a glimpse into the life of other people who are doing it really well, so these are the YouTubers that I was watching, and by that point I was also following them on Instagram, then I wouldn't have had the idea to start my online business. Now, at the time, they were both doing business coaching, but it was a little bit exy for me. So that's when I decided to hire my first business coach, Anna from the Elevatory. Love her so much because she really helped me to set up the foundations for my business and really just kickstarted everything from my branding, my logos, my website, my products, my Facebook ads, my funnels, like my pricing, absolutely everything. Oh, it's just incredible. But that, as I said, that did involve me taking action. So not only did I have to do a monetary investment, the first time that I had ever invested in myself professionally was $5,500 to work with Anna as a business coach for 6 months. P.S. I don't think she charges that anymore. I think it's a hell of a lot more. But I ended up working with her for a whole 12 months. And not only did I spend that money, but I was still working my job at the time. And in actual fact, then I switched to another company doing a similar role. And I did let them know that I had this side hustle on the side, which I don't think they fully estimated how big this was going to get, because that's in the end why I ended up losing my job. not that it was a bad thing. Obviously, all good things must come to an end, and it really pushed me into taking SkinQueen full time, which I'm forever grateful for. But I was also spending most nights and most weekends working unpaid on my business. And if you're a business owner, you know how much unpaid time goes into actually working on your business. And I'm not talking about like working in your business, because of course I was doing a lot of that as well when I was having discovery calls or showing up on Instagram or doing my email marketing. That's actually me working in my business. But I also took a lot of time on either side to work on my business as well. So that was things like building out landing pages, building out websites, going backwards and forwards with a graphic designer in America to make sure that my branding and my logos were amazing, getting branding shots, building out digital products. There was so much behind the scenes that went with it. And yes, I could have just invested the money and learnt the skills and never took action. But that was just a non-negotiable for me. I knew that if I was going to invest that much money into really creating the business and life of my dreams, that I really needed to take action and put in the work. And I think that's where a lot of people fall short on their dreams. For me, as somebody who delivers a lot of education and also coaches people, I know the ones that are going to actually get the results, and the 1%ers, we like to call them, because they're the ones who will take what I'm actually sharing with them, implement it into their business, see the results, and then just start to grow and accelerate and just be amazing. And this is exactly what I did. I still remember my business coach being like, oh my God, everything we tell you to do, you just action. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I have people who I jump on Zoom calls with every fortnight. And she's like, so where are we at? What are we doing? And they're just like, oh, I haven't done it yet, but I'll get to it. I've been busy. And I'm like, what? People are investing that much money and they're not actually doing the work? That doesn't make sense to me, because I feel like if you are buying a program, buying a course, buying, time with a coach, doing a group program with a coach, you're doing that for a reason. And so the most important side of it is to actually do the work. Otherwise, you're just learning the skills. Weird. I don't know. The other thing, though, is also the spiritual side of how I really changed my life. I guess that's what we're talking about here, because part of it, of course, is learning the strategy and learning the skills so that you can then start to create this amazing life and meeting your New Year's resolutions and your New Year's goals. But the other side of how I achieved, I guess, what I've achieved is really the whole spiritual side of things. When I first started my business and went full-time in SkinQueen, which was not July last year, so not 2022, it wasn't 2021. Oh my gosh, it'll be 2 years in July this year. That's hectic. Anyway, so it was really in 2020, July 2020, that I went all in on my business. And sorry, 2021, because we're in 2023 now. And I'm recording this in 2022 just to make this even more confusing. But you get the picture. And I was like, okay, I've had the business coaching behind me. I've also, I've just had a sale come through as I'm talking to you guys. I love it when that happens. This is the whole abundance thing with having an online business and a business full stop, but this is where I'm leading to next. The other part of learning all the strategy and learning how to create funnels, Facebook ads, market myself was obviously the spiritual side. And that is when I came across my next mentor, Ruby Lee. Probably seen me with her on the gram before. I've been on her podcast. She's been on my podcast. She has been such a big role in my business journey because she really taught me to tap into the spiritual side. And when I say the spiritual side, that's things like manifestation. And if this is a new concept to you, it's the whole concept and theory that thoughts become things. And this was actually taught to me when I first started Ultraceuticals. My manager, Emily, at the time, she gifted me the book, The Secret. And if you haven't read it, do yourself a favor this year and read it. Listen to it on Audible. You can even watch it on Netflix, but I feel like there's not as much power as when you listen to it on Audible or read it. I'm not a big reader, and I managed to read the book. Absolutely life-changing. It's the whole concept that, as I said, thoughts become things, and that the world doesn't hear negative. And whenever you're putting out these positive thoughts, so you want to radiate thoughts like, I'm going to have a $50,000 month this month. This year, I'm going to make $500,000. This year is going to be so financially abundant. You're putting these thoughts out to the universe, and the universe will respond. And I'd already known of this, but then when I met Ruby, I began to learn more about this once again. And she goes into that in way more depth in the way of angel cards, tarot cards, crystals, money mindset, limiting beliefs, and journaling. And so a huge part of my story as well was really incorporating overcoming limiting beliefs, understanding my money mindset, rewiring my programming, which, stems from when you're a child. We obviously have subconscious programming from our parents, and really becoming hyper aware of that so that I could really start to work on that and change the messages that I was putting out there to the universe, but also to overcome my limiting beliefs so that I could mix that spiritual side with the strategy, combine them together, and just supercharge my road ahead to get where I needed to be. So the reason why I'm telling you all this, you might be just sitting here or watching this and being like, okay, cool story. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because it is January. And if you haven't already set your New Year's resolutions or your New Year's goals, or you haven't even begun to think about what you want to achieve this year, then hopefully this is beginning to get the creative juices flowing. And I think as business owners, if you're a business owner or if you're wanting to become a business owner, it's really important to be aware of what you want to achieve well ahead of time. But I understand that in the beauty industry, you really just want to make it to Christmas Eve or the day before so you can just switch off, have time with family, and actually just recover from a hectic December. I totally get it, although I haven't done it in a very long time. All of the ladies that I went and saw in December, lashes, nails, hair, they were all like, we're just counting down the days now. They weren't ungrateful, but I definitely felt their pain. I did bring a lot of them coffee and lunch and cans of energy drink and Coca-Cola. Probably should have brought them water, but it's okay. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because if you are sitting here and you're not quite sure of what it is that you want to achieve in 2023, I've got you covered. I'm actually doing a 3-day challenge, which I'm mega excited for because I haven't done one of these before. Oh, it's going to be so epic. I wanted to do something a little bit different and something that was going to give you some quick wins, something that was going to be very tangible. It's not going to be in videos. You're literally going to get messages direct to your inbox so that you can read it and take action ASAP. It's going to be a little bit of action, also a little bit of templates is the word I'm looking for, not action. I'm going to be giving you the direction and the template and really boosting your motivation and inspiration so you can get started ASAP. So this 3-day challenge is called Have Your Most Successful Year Yet. And I did that on purpose because when I think back to the beginning of my 2022, holy moly, definitely 2022 was my most successful year yet. It's so crazy. We were talking about it over Christmas lunch, and obviously all the family were over and asking how we're going. And we're a little bit anxious that I'd hired Cameron full time, but I was like, no, I'm feeling quite confident because my business generated close to $350,000 this past financial year. And actually, now that I've just had a sale come through, let's have a look at that because that could have changed. All right, year to date, 337.9K. That is a bloody lot of money. If you're watching this, you can see this on YouTube now. That's a lot of money for one person to earn. And definitely this year, I'm going to double this. I know I will, putting it out there to the universe. But if you want 2023 to be your most successful year yet, then you will love this challenge. The first part of the challenge goes over 3 days, but day one, I'm going to be giving you my planning template. So everything that I do in my business comes with a plan. I don't just like pull it out of nowhere and run with it. It's very intentional. There's always a plan. It's always, timed perfectly. And I always estimate how much cash it's going to generate in my business. And that is the first thing I actually want to share with you on day one of this challenge, so that you can look ahead at the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months of your business and not be like unsure where this money is going to come from. Because it's one thing to manifest it and be like, I want to have consistent 10K months, and another thing to actually know how you're going to do this. And this is particularly good if you're wanting to achieve a certain monetary value. It's also amazing if you are just wanting to work smarter, not harder, and actually have work-life balance. And that might mean reducing your days, but then increasing your prices and doing a couple of extra little things throughout the year so that you don't actually have to give yourself a pay cut to avoid burnout. It's actually going to be a very strategic way for you to be like, this is how I'm going to achieve my goals in 2023. So as I said, there's going to be that part of it, but it's also going to come with a template. Day 2 is all about marketing and promoting yourself, and it's about creating cash converting content. This is the most important thing that you need to be doing when you have a business. Doesn't matter what business you have, if you're a hairdresser, if you're a nail tech, if you're a beauty business owner, or if you have an online business, but having a whole content plan that is actually going to help drive sales and drive your business is the most important part. And I don't want you to get to, a couple of weeks' time and be like, I've got no content ideas. I'm going to be teaching you how you can constantly generate content ideas so that you can pretty much make your Instagram, your email marketing, your Facebook into a cash converting content machine. Very important. And then day 3 is also important. It's going to be about overcoming your limiting beliefs. because as I said before, you can do all of the strategy and learn all of the tips and tricks. But if you also have these limiting beliefs and these little voices in your head that tell you that you can't do this, or it's not possible for you, or, that's too expensive to do that, or you are not worth making that amount of money, then that is what your subconscious is going to continue to tell you and put out to the universe. So day 3 is going to be overcoming your limiting beliefs so you can really squash them and be like, do you know what? I've got this, and I am going to have a bloody successful year this year. So there it is, the 3-day challenge. It's kicking off on the 16th of January. That's the 16th of January in Australia. So if you are anywhere else in the world, could be potentially the 15th of January, but 2023. You can click the link in the show notes to sign up. It's going to be super, 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 just magical. It's going to set you on the right path so you know exactly what you need to do to have a really successful 2023 and meet your New Year's goals, your resolutions, your dreams. And so you can look back at the end of the year and be like, frick, I actually bloody did it. Because if I can do it, and if I can change my life and really create not only the business of my dreams, but the life of my dreams, then so can you, and I want to help you. So good to be back on the podcast. I'm so excited for this setup. I feel like I'm back in the flow again. I've got so many ideas, so thank you so much to everybody who has sent me ideas over the holiday break. I will be batching like crazy over my break, which I just love because then I can really focus on growing my business and working in my business. When I'm doing podcasting, I get these bursts of creativity, and I find if I just sit there and smash it out one after another, then I could just get it done. So it's just on and ready to go. But I'm excited for this setup. Got to get used to looking at a camera though, not going to lie. But, apparently lots of people watch podcasts on YouTube these days. So we've got to be where the audience is. But I hope you have enjoyed this episode. If you have, please make sure to give me a review. I love reading them. It just warms my heart. And make sure that you take a screenshot and share it to Instagram as well and tag me. And also send me a message. If you don't want to do either of those things, just send me a message and say, I've just listened to your first podcast of the year. I'm feeling super motivated and you're keen for the bloody challenge. Let's get it.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it or learned something new, be sure to share this on Instagram and tag me at SkinQueen. That's Queen with 3 E's, and I'll be sure to repost you. Have an amazing day and stay moisturized.